I'm Sherry Berg of The Right Reflection. Joining me today is Vanessa Silverman. She is a public relations and communications consultant. And Vanessa and I have been working together for about 4 years now. And we're going to guide you through one of my one-to-one sessions today to give you an idea of what you would be getting if you decided to do a one-to-one session with me for content creation or any other aspect of content strategy that you need for your small business or startup. So thank you for joining us today, Vanessa. Say hi to everybody. Is
Hi, thanks, Sherry.
there anything you want to tell everybody before we get started?
Just to say that I love working with Sherry. We are passionate about many of the same causes and businesses and growing businesses and communication. So I'm looking forward to the session.
Awesome. Me too. Thank you for joining me, Vanessa. So today, Vanessa indicated that she wanted to do something with content creation, which is one of the options when you choose a one-to-one session with me. So today, we're going to walk through my Mainstreet marketing content creation plan that I've customized just for Vanessa. And so first thing we're going to go over, I'm going to share my screen so that everyone can see the plan for today. Okay, Vanessa, are you seeing the content creation planning screen? Okay.
Mhm.
So the first part of our lesson, we're going to talk about the 4 key elements of effective content writing, right? So the first thing is clarity. Everybody talks about clarity. If you follow any copywriters on social media at all, you will hear everybody say clarity over cleverness all the time. And really all that means is that you want to make your content as clear as possible for the person reading it. And that can mean doing things like avoiding industry jargon and big fancy words that your ideal customer may not understand. So if you're putting yourself in your customer's shoes, that will help give you some language that you need to be more clear with your writing. That's one thing that I always recommend. The second key element is conciseness. And by that I mean, keep it short and sweet. In journalism school, we learned what was called the KISS method, which was, it's not such a nice saying now, but the keep it stupid, keep it simple, stupid is what the KISS stood for back then. And it's just a reminder that you don't need to have more words than necessary to get your point across. So try to keep it as concise as possible. Word count, I get that a lot when people are blogging. Should I do 1,500 words? Is there a magic number of words that it needs to be? And the answer to that question is always no. Write long enough that you can get your point across. So concise and clear. Clarity and conciseness, first 2. Relevance is also very important. You want to make sure that you're writing about things that are interesting and relevant to your ideal customer or your target audience, because if it's not relevant to them, they're not going to read it or engage with it. And the fourth key element of effective content writing is engagement. And we get into this a lot with SEO, and Vanessa, I'm sure you know this when you're writing blogs. With SEO and Google, one of the metrics that they measure now and rely on more heavily than ever before is engagement. So yes, maybe you've gotten somebody to your blog post on your website, but did they read it? Did they click on any of the links that you may have put in it to other content on your site or sources that you use to write your blog? Did they then go to other places on your website? So engagement is very important when you're creating content, and so you want to keep that in mind. So Vanessa, do you have any questions about any of those items?
When someone clicks on a link within my blog,
Yes.
what does that do for me? Does that increase my Google popularity, or
Well,
what's the benefit of that?
backlinks are for SEO. Now, you'll hear a lot of argument among SEO professionals right now about the relevance of backlinks right now.
Mhm.
Google has always been sketchy on whether they will come right out and tell you, yes, we prioritize backlinks. Now, it seems like they do, because if you do a backlink strategy, which we can also talk about a little bit later under one of our other lessons about SEO here. If you do the backlinking strategy correctly, you should do some internal linking to other places on your own site, and also some external linking to places, sources where you got your information. That helps add some authority and validity to what you're writing. And then ideally, you would want an outside party to link back to your content. So if you're writing, in your case, I know you write a lot of travel blogs. If you're writing a travel blog and say the tourism bureau for one of the cities that you feature on one of your blogs links back to your blog, Google sees that and goes, oh, they considered that authoritative enough to link back to it. So that's how,
Like a
that's,
win-win sharing
yes,
links.
yes,
Okay, so it's good for everybody to kind of say,
it
maybe even
is.
saying, I'll put your link in. Would you be willing to backlink as well to mine to discuss with another organization to partner?
Yes, it definitely helps. Now, recently, an executive with Google came out and said that Google is not prioritizing backlinks anymore. And
Mhm.
it kind of set off a flurry of discussion among SEO professionals because it certainly doesn't seem to be that way. If
Okay.
you do backlinks the right way, Google does seem to reward your content. So, which is it? Do they reward them or do they not? So I always tell people do them, but do them naturally. The same thing with, I always advise with SEO. There are a lot of backlink mills out there, is what I like to
Mhm.
call them. You've probably, everybody's probably got them if you write any content for a living. You'll get messages from people, we sell backlinks. We can get you backlinks on high authority websites. And really all you're doing is paying them to link to a bunch of spammy sites somewhere. That
So
kind of,
when in doubt, go organic always,
yeah, oh
right?
yes.
Okay.
Avoid those kind of services
Yeah.
because Google definitely does not like this. And if they see that you have those kind of backlinks, they'll downgrade your site.
Okay. Good
So
to know.
so so do not buy backlinks. If I can stress anything, it's don't buy backlinks. You don't need to do that, and it's not good SEO practice.
Okay.
So I thought what we could do. Let me stop sharing my screen for a minute here. My screen share went. So I'm going to switch screens here, and we're going to open. I'm just going to open some content on my own blog because I um, don't want to be rude and analyze someone else's content without their permission. So I'm just going to move into our practice in action here, and we choose. We'll just go with this one. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. Bear with me. I adjust our lesson plans. So this is our learning and action component for this first part of our lesson today. And okay, are you seeing the dark side of social media engagement pods blog?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, this is a blog that I wrote, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or so. And it explores the idea of engagement pods. If you are on any kind of digital platform, any kind of social media, and you don't know what an engagement pod is, just a quick overview. They are paid membership sites, I guess you could call them, where people agree to engage with each other's content just to boost visibility. It's what we call the vanity metrics, and some platforms do prioritize that. They want to know that people are looking at and engaging with your posts. But the problem is with engagement pods, it's all the wrong people looking at your posts. So you might be getting lots of eyeballs on your content, but you're probably not getting any inbound leads or any kind of valuable partnerships out of it. So I wrote this blog about engagement pods. So let's take a look at it, and we're going to go over, you know, the four key elements of content writing that we just talked about. So with this blog, right from the get-go, with titles are very important. So you want to have a title that is clear and concise. And if it tends to go more than 67 characters, Google will cut it off in the search results page. And so if it's too long of a title, people won't see the whole thing. So I advise keeping it short. Clear and concise is most definitely important for your title. And as you can see with this one, it's pretty clear. We're talking about it's a dark side of social media engagement. Um, so relevance and engagement with this. It's relevant because right now, if you spend any time on social media, you've probably seen a lot of people talking about engagement pods, people calling each other out for using engagement pods. One of the telltale signs of engagement pods are these AI chat bots that will post artificial comments. It's very clear it's AI talking. And then some of the pods that you can join, the engagement pods, will have pre-recorded responses that you can use for certain topics, and you'll say, yes, I approve these four contributions to be used on somebody's post about content creation. And so when somebody in your pod says, oh, I need some engagement on this post, that AI bot in the pod service that you belong to will go, here's one of four quotes I can use, and it'll just pull one and automatically insert it on your behalf. Sometimes it's funny because you'll see the exact same comment to the word posted by 15, 20 people because they're all in the same pod. So it's so
It's
anyway,
like
that's yeah. So that's the
false.
relevance. That's the relevance component of this. It was a
Mhm.
very hot topic on LinkedIn, particularly. So I thought this is something I need to talk about. There was a lot of confusion among some of my clients. They were starting to ask me questions about, how do I get more engagement? So we had a whole chat about. So I wrote this blog. So that's the relevance part of it. It's clear, it's concise. The title tells you what you're going to be reading and
Mhm.
who it's for. And then we get down to the relevance part. And if you look over the blog, it does talk about why, we introduce the whole concept of building your brand and building content organically. It's hard to build an audience organically. Vanessa, this with
Mhm.
blogging,
Mhm.
that, but you have to do it the right way. Just getting eyeballs on your content, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with engagement. Getting eyeballs on your content doesn't mean a thing if people don't engage with anything in it. So the relevance part, I introduce a topic and I explain why this is a current issue and why
Mhm.
people need to care. And we explain. One of the things that I like to do, and we'll talk more about this later in one of our other lessons, components of this lesson, is how to format blogs to make them more user friendly. So as you can see, I don't have very large chunks of text, just enough to explain, and then I'll break things down with headers and
I think
lots of
people's attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, and people want something catchy and concise, and they
right.
just can't go on and on. And I tend to write too much. So
Yes.
this is very helpful for me to keep it edited.
Yes, and something scannable.
Mhm.
It's I don't even know that it's that people don't have short attention spans. I think it's just that they lack the time to put in all the time to read like an article that might take them 10 minutes to go through. So if you
Mhm.
make it scannable with things like clear headers that tell them what is going to be in that section,
Mhm.
bullet points, even graphics that
Mhm.
illustrate a specific point, then they
Yeah.
can go directly to whatever section that they think is going to be helpful and pick what they need. And that boosts your engagement. I mean, you wouldn't think it does because somebody might not be on your site very long if they find a paragraph that they were looking for, read it and leave, but they may click on some links, they may come back later. So all of that adds up. So that's one of the things that I did, and we'll talk more about this later when we rewrite a blog that you had requested, and we'll format it in that. But so the engagement with this, I started to talk about that. We have the headers, it draw people to where they need to be. We have different graphics that they can click on. One of the things that I did was I talked to someone who is he's a data analyst, to expose the dangers of being in a pod, because there are dangers. It makes you vulnerable to hacking whenever you use any kind of platform that you're giving them control of your social media accounts. They can go in and post as you, they can do whatever they want as you. And even if you cancel your service, they can still log in as you. And that's been a problem for some people too. They've left pods and the pod is still posting for them because they capture what's called a cookie. And then when they log back in, as the service logs in, LinkedIn will recognize them, or whatever social media they're logging into. It still recognizes them, so it still gives them access. So there are all kinds of dangers. So I talked to a data analyst that's working on exposing that problem. And as you can see in the blog, there are lots of links. There's links back to him so that people can see who he is and that he's a subject matter authority. Um,
Mhm.
so this is part of that backlinking strategy. Anytime I mentioned a specific fact or data, I link back to it. And so these are all links that people can click on, and it's part of that backlink strategy.
Right.
And some of them go to other blogs on my own website. There's a blog I wrote a while ago about proper engagement and how to boost engagement. There's a blog that I wrote about if you're going to use AI, here's how to use it ethically. So I linked as appropriate to some of those things as well. So, someone may click on this and they're engaging more on the website. And that's really a very important metric, not only for ranking, but just for, building an audience. People, if your content is engaging, they'll come back and read more later. So, it's just an example of that. And as you can see, as we scroll down, lots of formatting, different size headers, H2, H3 headers. And we'll talk about how to make sure you're actually doing a heading, because if you don't give it an actual heading format when you upload it to your website, screen readers won't be able to tell that it's a header. And it'll make it difficult for people using screen readers or other tech devices to help them read online. It won't notice that that's a whole new section, and it'll just jumble it all together. So that's kind of important too. It's just another reason that makes it more engaging for people with visual disabilities that may be looking at your content.
Okay.
So this is just a quick overview, kind of hit on all the points: clarity, conciseness, relevance, and engagement. And you can just kind of see an example of how that looks.
I like how you did a mixture of like visuals, quotes, and content.
Yeah, sometimes I'll
like
even do
quotes.
like pull out quotes. It depends on how fancy you want to get, but it breaks up the text. It just makes it more scannable. Something to mention with images: if you're posting images, make sure that you downsize them and compress them, because otherwise they won't load. And that's another big issue with SEO, is if your website takes too long to load, or graphics or images take too long to load, people are just going to be like, ugh, especially if they're on their phone, because they don't want to spend time doing that. They just want to find the information they need and move on. So, that's another important thing. And that's something else that, I can talk about with people if they have questions about how to do that. These are all things that, I can guide you through the process. Sometimes people want to log in to their website on the back end and walk me through so I can see what they're doing and make suggestions for how they can, compress their photos, how they can do meta tags and meta descriptions and alt text and all that fun stuff. That's all part of SEO, and it's all part of improving the user experience.
Okay.
Okay, so we're sharing that. All right. So that is the first part of our lesson, which is the 4 key elements of effective content writing. Now, do you have any questions for me before we move on?
I don't think so. I realized that I think it's like when you're reading literature, you want to read dialogue. I think the fact that you had quotes, images, and then paragraphs was a more balanced approach than I've been taking to blogging. I don't have any quotes. I have maybe one, not enough images. Maybe I think it keeps it balanced if you have everything.
Yes.
Besides
Well,
just content.
It just makes it more interesting too. As humans, and when we open a piece of content and all we see is endless text, your first reaction might be, oh, you need something to draw you in and keep you engaged in it. And so, I recommend using, not too many, just a few. It really depends on how long the content is, on how many graphics or images, or even just a nice pull out quote. If you talk to somebody, or if you're citing a specific statistic for something, you put it into a block quote of some kind, just to draw people's eyes to that. That really makes all the difference.
Well, you have a background in journalism. Not everybody does.
Yeah.
So it's like we don't know, what makes a good read or not.
Yeah. Well, these are things that also I just learned from doing layout and design, because when you're writing a story, you're thinking about telling a story. You're not thinking about how it looks visually on the page. But, in my background, I also have that layout and design aspect of journalism, where we learned how to design a page. I designed a whole newspaper at one point in time. So, you learn how to put visual elements together, and it is very important for the user experience. So it's something that, I'm always happy to show people how to do that and how to keep things a little bit more balanced.
It's essential, yeah.
Right. Well,
okay, thank you, Sherry.
So let's move on. We're going to move on to the second part of our lesson, which is a content formatting best. Okay, and now we're going to move into the second part of our lesson for today. which is content formatting best practices. And Vanessa and I talked a little bit before our session today, and we decided to take a piece of content and just work through it and show how to change it and format it differently for usability, to make it a little bit more clear, a little bit more engaging. Vanessa writes a lot of travel blogs and about accessibility, so I chose for a lesson today, hopefully everybody can see this now, um, a blog on just a random travel accessibility website. There are tons of them out there. They all pretty much look the same. So, it's not that this one's any worse than any other. We're just going to go through the article. The article is well written. There's a lot of information in it, but in my opinion, it could be formatted better for engagement and just usability. It's not very scannable the way that it is, and that's a huge problem for improving the user experience. So this particular blog, as you can see, it's focusing on Colorado Springs, and it's talking about a guide to accessible hotels. So the way the blog is currently laid out, it's just listing different hotels, and then it talks about each hotel. So, ideally, there's nothing wrong with that. But as someone reading this blog, I may not have time to read every single piece of this right now. Maybe I'm in a hurry to book a hotel because I got a last minute speaking engagement somewhere, and I need a hotel that's going to be accessible for my wheelchair and my other assistive devices that I use. And I can't tell just looking at this blog quickly which one of those hotels might fit that bill. So one of the things I would recommend with changing a blog like this is, instead of making each header a specific hotel that they reviewed, make it a feature of those hotels. Customers aren't looking for, they're not looking for the names of solutions. They're not looking for brand names. They are looking for features. That's what people are looking at whether they're buying a product or a service. They have in mind something that they want it to do. So it's best, if you're blogging about a particular topic like that, to make the headers a feature of that product or service that you're featuring in your blog. So for this, I haven't read through all of these individually, but instead of making it the hotel name and where it's located, maybe say, I don't know what a good feature is for this. Ample room, accessible room size. Vanessa, what are some things that people look
Well, one
for?
thing is the bedroom, the bathroom, there's different things that might be a priority for someone. So if they have a certain kind of wheelchair and they are looking for a bed that's very low, or they want the shower is the top priority, or the bar in the hotel. I mean, it could be anything. So you want to, like, I think that's a really good idea to say, you know, roll out bed, roll out shower, accessible bar, restaurant, the pool in the hotel has is accessible. The parking lot, there's so many different aspects to it. So I think that's a really good idea, because I wouldn't want to read about each hotel and then say, that's not my top priority.
Right. So, and a way to take what Vanessa just said and make it a little bit more SEO friendly as well, in these headers here, like you see the name of the hotel. So say you were looking for a hotel that has lower beds. So you could say best hotel for lower beds, best hotel for I don't know the right terminology for that,
The
but
rollout shower also,
roll
as well as it
yeah,
does.
best hotels for roll-out showers or roll-in showers. Um, Best hotels with wheelchair-friendly restaurants or bars. Give them very specific headers, and it goes back to that to the four principles we already talked about. It's clear, it's concise, it's relevant, and it's engaging. So people are going to go, oh, here's what I'm looking for. I need to make sure that my wheelchair fits in the shower. I need to make sure I can get into my bathroom to get into the wheelchair accessible shower. So
Mhm.
go through and make every one of those headers a feature. And then underneath that, you can give a little introduction. So there should always be an introduction to every section. Every section should be a standalone, is what I like to say. So, if somebody's scanning and they go right to that section, it's not going to feel like they've missed out on something important before they are reading the information in that section. So give everything a little bit of an introduction. If say we're
I mean,
featured,
I'm looking at the Lodge at Flying Horse and the fact that they have a championship golf course and a serene spa.
yeah,
Yeah, I want to know if I would want to know that. That's the top
yeah,
priority for me. Maybe golf is an issue, is one of my likes and preferences, golf.
it's just because you're in a wheelchair doesn't mean you might not want to play golf. You know? So
Right.
yeah, that's a perfect example. You know, you need to highlight a feature, pick out an aspect, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a disability expert, so I can't. It's not
Mm-hmm.
my it's not my area of expertise, so it's harder for me to come up with what would matter. But you know that because you write.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the purpose of doing these one-on-one because I can give you the guidance, but I need your expertise to say, here's what people in a wheelchair would be looking for. So together,
Right.
we work through that. But give it a little bit an introduction, and then you can turn. These are H2 headers, which are good for SEO. You want to break up your content
Mm-hmm.
under each one of those, list the hotels that have these features as H3 headers, make them H3 headers. So you would turn the Lodge at Flying Horse into an H3 header and say the Lodge at Flying Horse dash best golf course. So give
Mm-hmm.
it a little bit more so people can scan quickly. Okay, here's places to stay that have accessible golf courses. Here's
Mm-hmm.
places to stay that have, well, I guess we could call it accessible entertainment. That would be a
Mm-hmm.
general
Mm-hmm.
heading that would work.
That's
And then
good.
you break
Yeah.
it down by H3 headers. You know,
Right.
the Lodge at Flying Horse, best golf course, or accessible golf course. Make up another name here.
Very
Radisson
simple.
Hotel,
Sure.
best wheelchair friendly nightlife or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then each one of those is an H3 header. So you break each section up further and make it quicker to scan, more engaging, and more relevant to
That's more
the reader.
interesting to read than just the title of the hotel. I mean, to
Yes,
read about, an accessible restaurant or golf course or roll and shower, instead of just seeing the Lodge at Flying Horse. It's not interesting to read each, doesn't get
yes,
your attention.
right. Yeah, there's a lot of good information here. Unfortunately, people probably aren't reading it because it's not drawing them in. And the
Mhm.
same with the photos. We talked about this. These are probably standard photos that the hotel provided, but this doesn't make me want to, I can see this on their website. It'd be better to use like user photos, and there are lots of those on websites. You can find them on review websites, or even just graphics of some kind, something. And if you're talking about a wheelchair friendly golf course, it might be helpful to show the golf course with people in a wheelchair using the golf course so people can
And
see
when
what.
in doubt, take your own photos, right? You want to,
Right.
if you can, you want to take the photos. If you can't, you want to get
Yes.
some, just some, not something just off the website, but somebody that someone else took maybe, or something more natural, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're local, a lot of writers aren't local to what they're writing,
Mhm.
so that makes it a little bit more difficult.
Mhm.
But if you're local, definitely taking your own photos is always preferred to stock photos. Also, just for SEO because they're going to be original photos. Sometimes web crawlers will find a photo that's been used by 70 travel websites, and they're like, "Oh, that's not unique," and it doesn't consider it worth ranking. So originality is better for SEO. And if you don't live close to something you're writing about, and this is something you do frequently, it's worth pairing up with a photographer in your area. You can even find student photographers
Mhm. The
at
local
local
art
art
school
stores.
that's doing, the art
Yeah,
school that has the photography department, I'm sure the students who are doing an internship would be happy, and that's a lot more, I don't like these photos, to be honest with you, these photos just, I would want to see something a little more candid, a little more off the, on the, just
absolutely.
capturing someone doing something, wheeling by in, the restaurant.
Yeah, absolutely. So you understand, and it's just not visually. There's a lot of things, a lot of good information here as I'm looking at
Mhm.
this, and there's a lot of important information here that people who do need accessibility would find useful, but they
Mhm.
may not scan this entire article. And this is a long article. That was
Mhm.
one of the things that I noticed, and that makes it even more important to format correctly because it's such a long article. The more
Mhm.
words you have, you definitely need to break it up and be very intentional about how you're categorizing things, or people just aren't going to engage with it. I mean, I've seen it on my own blog over the years. I've seen blogs. I know it's good information, and I'll go back and I'll tweak the formatting and add some more graphics and just change things up a little bit, and then they get more engagement. So, that's another thing. Don't be afraid if you format something and it's just not working, go back and look at it and say, what might I need to do differently? Maybe this is more than one piece of content. Maybe this piece of content would be great to break up into little social media posts and redirect people back to the main blog. There's lots of things you can do. If it's been formatted correctly, it's still not getting engagement. And those are things that can talk about in other lessons, but it's all just part of the process. As you know, organic content, it's hard to get eyeballs on our organic content and promote it, but it's really the best strategy, because when you start doing things like paying for backlinks and paying for people to promote your stuff in engagement pods that we talked about earlier, it's not true engagement. And eventually, search algorithms catch on to that, and they penalize your site. All that stuff is considered black hat SEO. And do people do it? Yes. And they get away with it sometimes, and it works. I mean, there's a reason people do it. It's cheating the system, and it works, but
Well, it's
I don't
kind of,
recommend
your
it.
first sentence was building a brand is hard. It's
Yeah.
more work to do it the organic
Yes.
way. It's gonna take a little more time, but in the end, if it's kind of like if you take the shortcut, you're gonna suffer the consequences of getting like, reprimanded by Google, or it's not gonna work. So it seems like put in the time.
Yeah, and we saw that with the March updates to their algorithm. Literally overnight, entire websites were de-indexed from Google because they were doing things like using Chat GPT to just mass produce blogs that were literally garbage blogs. They were made to attract the search engine using keywords and just popular topics and search terms,
Oh my
but they
God.
didn't add any value. And so
Right.
literally overnight, and I was very happy to see that, because there are a lot of junk sites on the internet, and they do, it makes it hard when you're Googling now, to find reliable information. So I welcome Google taking those steps. We'll see how long they do. Sometimes they take these measures and then they back off. It's really hard to gauge how long they're going to do something, or whether they're going to stick with what they say. But I always advise my clients to follow best practices. If you do it the right way, you have nothing to worry about, no matter how many changes they institute. And that's what's important.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Two heads are better than one. I didn't know, but I didn't like about this article. I didn't realize it was the formatting.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes people don't realize that. They look at something and it's not clicking with them
I
because
just knew it didn't engage me, but I didn't know
right.
exactly why. And then when you said that one thing about doing the features first, I realized how much potential the article had.
Yes. Oh yeah, this is a great article. If you look at
Yeah.
each section, which I did before I
Mhm.
before I used it in our lesson, it's very well written. It's just formatted terribly, and a lot of writing suffers from poor formatting. So that's always something I recommend focusing on.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions about this
No,
section?
I just think it really helps to brainstorm, at least for me, because I did, like I said, I now I see it that with better formatting, that would have been a lot more engaging and catchy, and the information would have gotten to me where I didn't feel like reading it in the beginning. That and the photos. So
Yes. Yeah,
yeah.
and that's why I like doing sessions this way, because nobody's situation is exactly the same. And
Mhm.
depending on what kind of content you're creating, what kind of business you have, one of these catch-all lessons that you download and you buy, they don't work. They don't work because they may
Mhm.
not necessarily apply to you. We can work through, if you had a piece of content, which we're going to do later, you pull it up and you have specific questions. That's what I can help with, making sure
Mhm.
that your content meets your content strategy.
Yeah, each business or nonprofit or organization is different, or website is different. So we have different audiences, different needs, different goals. So it's obviously not going to be a one size fits all, like you
right.
said. So that was really helpful. Thank you. That
Okay.
was cool.
All right. And so now we're going to move on to the third part of our lesson for today. Okay, so for the next part of our lesson, we're going to learn about how to leverage the power of SEO. And of course, that's important for any kind of digital content that you're creating. It doesn't matter if it's a blog post, if it's a web page, or if it's your social media, you should be focusing on SEO best practices to get eyeballs on. I know it shocks a lot of people when I tell them that you can use SEO on social media. It is a thing. There are creative ways to do that. You can make SEO keywords hashtags, even just putting them naturally in the text that you're writing. If you do it well and do it naturally, it'll be found. One of the things that comes up for me all the time is my LinkedIn posts.
Mm,
More so than my blog, more so than my website. People are looking for me, or they're looking for specific topics. Um, a lot of my LinkedIn posts come up, and it's just because I've taken deliberate measures to use SEO strategies.
mm.
So let's go back to that blog that we were just looking at. Open that up and share the screen again so we can look at it together. All right. Are you seeing the blog?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So one of the things I ran an SEO audit on this page. And what that does is it tells me there's a number of different tools, auditing tools that you can use. I have a couple. Some of them are paid, some of them are free. I will show you the free one that you can use. And I recommend, if you haven't done an audit of your website, at least using the free tool just to get an idea of what you might be missing, where the gaps are. Um, so let's go back and take a look at this. What I noticed with the audit when I ran it on this site was none of the images had alt text. And that's very, very important for SEO. Not only because it's a great way to put some SEO keywords into your content, but it's also critical for screen readers. If someone is using a screen reader, it's going to look at this, and it's one of two things is going to happen. It's either going to say, there's an image, and it's not going to know how to interpret it. So that's all the person looking at it is going to get, is there's an image. Or if it's a sophisticated enough screen reader, it might generate its own idea of, of a description. And some of those are not very good. I've done that a couple times just to see what kind of description one of them will generate. They're usually very, very nondescript, honestly. If I was somebody relying on them, I would be frustrated, not understanding what it was trying to visualize. So it's important to always make sure that you have alt tags on all of your photos. That's something that you do on the back end of your website. And it's most SEO tools that you can download, plugins for WordPress. If you're on a different platform like Squarespace or Shopify, they all have the tools that you can go in and assign the alt text, or sometimes it's called an image description, either way. I mentioned that you can use SEO keywords in them, but the trick to that is to use them naturally. For a while there was a black hat technique where people were just giving whatever the image was an SEO keyword, which was a huge disservice to people using screen readers and other people with visual disabilities, because they didn't know what they were looking at. They would get a keyword that would say travel hotels. Well, what does that mean? So if you're going to use a keyword in the alt text, do it naturally. Include it in a sentence, like in a way, like for this one, we could say a downtown shot, or a shot of downtown Colorado Springs, featuring office buildings and green trees, and accessible hotels. Maybe accessible hotels is one of their keywords. So work it in there naturally. So that's what I recommend with alt text. So that's the first thing. Make sure every photo has alt text. The other thing we talked about already in our last segment was, proper formatting. Formatting improves the user experience, and user experience is a huge part of SEO ranking. When and the way that Google can be a little bit nondescript on how they measure that, but from what we can tell, most SEO professionals can tell by analyzing the data, is that if someone is engaging on it, if they're clicking on links, then Google assumes that it is formatted properly and it's easy to digest. So that's one of those metrics that's important.
Okay.
Um, Also, the giving things proper headers. A lot of times I will see blogs where people will just bold, they'll make a text look bigger and they'll bold it or italicize it, but they haven't actually given it a header code. Every website has header code. If you're on WordPress, you would highlight this once you loaded that text in, and you would go up to the drop down box and where you can choose it's paragraph text or H1, H2, H3. I think it goes right up to H6 headers. I
Okay.
don't know that you really need to go that far. I don't think I've ever used more than an H3 header in a blog. Most people don't. Maybe if you're writing a scientific paper or a case study, you might need to go lower than that, but I don't think it's necessary. So I would caution going much below an H3 header.
Okay.
But you want to make sure that you've actually formatted it as a header, formatted these as paragraphs. Because if you don't, screen readers will not be able to determine that it's a separate section. People that don't have visual impairments that are scanning quickly trying to find information that they're looking for, it makes it more difficult for them as well, because even if it's bolded, it's still not standing out the way a proper H2 header font would. So that's
Okay.
that's another thing that's very important. A lot of websites that I look at have really made a mess of accessibility. They've completely ignored it as a component of SEO, and it is, from what I can tell, I would say it's the second most important SEO tool that Google is looking
Hmm.
for when it's ranking
Okay.
websites. Engagement, I personally think engagement is number one. I know
Okay.
there's some SEO people who will argue over that point, but from what I see from the data that I look at for my clients, I think engagement is first, accessibility is second, and then maybe a solid backlinking strategy. So, that's the other thing. We also talked about backlinks. I didn't click on any of these backlinks, but let's click on one. I'm assuming it goes directly to the hotel that it's
Hotel
linked to.
website, right?
Yes. So it goes directly to their accessible rooms, which is good. That's actually a very
That's
good
good. That's helpful to me. I would
it
want to see
goes,
the site.
yeah, it goes right to the accessible room version. So that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's an example of a good backlink. And as you can see, it also opened in the same window that we were already in. That's important for SEO too. Um, Years ago, it was recommended to make any links that you clicked on open in a new window. But
Oh,
now
like
with
that.
now with more people looking at everything on their mobile devices, it's annoying to have 27 windows open on a small cell phone. So it's recommended to have it open in the same window, which this did. So that was perfect. That's
Cool.
good for
Yeah.
SEO. Not only did it go to a relevant link, but it
Hmm.
opened in the same window. So
Okay.
we had two things there: relevance and user experience were it spot on. So that's good for SEO.
Okay.
Um, Images. This is something that people don't think about. We already talked about the alt text. Make sure that your images load quickly. So most high resolution images are too large to load that way to a website. Now, there are some websites like WordPress has a plugin that automatically compresses photos for you, so you don't even have to think about it. It doesn't matter what size you load, WordPress is going to compress it for you. But if you're using a different website server, like I don't think Shopify does, you have to size your photos. And I would
Okay.
recommend anything larger than like 1200 pixels is going to load slowly. So that would be the max I would recommend.
Do you have
Ideally,
to
like
pay for a video editor do you have to pay
um
to?
you can size them down using like if you have a regular desktop computer. Microsoft has free tools. Their
Okay.
image open the tools that you use to open images and view them. You can resize them in there. Most websites have a plugin. You can download plugins that will resize them for you and help you
Mhm.
edit them and downsize them. So,
Oh,
it's definitely worth doing. If you have Canva, I know a lot of people use Canva because
mhm.
it's free. You can
Mhm.
size photos in Canva too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
whatever you do, make sure you size it down so that it loads quickly. And then, if you run an audit on your website, which I'll show you how to do here shortly, that will also tell you if any of your photos are loading slow. I really like auditing for that reason, because you can miss a technical, what we call technical SEO, which is something on the back end, meta descriptions, photos, things that you're not seeing on that page that are messing with your user experience. And audits are really good for pinpointing it.
When, I mean, I don't know if I can ask you a question about audits now,
Mhm. Yeah, go ahead.
but like if I hired you to do a lesson, would you be, how complex is the audit? Is like you teach me how to do it, or you would do the audit, or we would do it together? I don't know
We
how
can do it
complicated
together.
it
I'd
is.
show you the tools. There are all kinds of tools that you can use, and it just depends
Okay,
on what you want to do with them. There are free tools that I recommend everybody start with, just to see. Usually it's enough to give you an idea if you use a free tool,
okay.
on what you need to do. If you want to get more advanced, then you can pay for a more in-depth auditing software.
Mhm.
Most people don't really need that. I have one
Is it
because I do a lot of
complicated though?
audits.
I guess my question is, how complex is it? Like, are you gonna walk me through it? Because I wouldn't know where to begin with it. I've
Yes,
never
I will
done
walk you through it. Some of
it.
the stuff that's in it, it's probably not going to make sense to the average person, because it's developer website
Okay.
developer speak,
Hmm.
which is
Right,
terrible.
right.
If it's a tool that's supposed to be helping the average person, that's one of my complaints about some of the software, is it's not made for the average person, so it's hard for you to use, because it'll start talking about terms like herflang, and you're like, what is a herflang?
No, I
So,
write. I don't know
so,
about
so
audits. I
we'll
do writing.
yeah, we'll do a quick audit, and I'll show
Okay,
you what it looks like.
okay.
Um, so so we talked about photos, we talked about sizing, we talked about the alt text. The other thing with a website for SEO is just to make sure that it's relevant to your target audience. One of the things that I like to do when appropriate is interview a subject matter expert. I do that a lot with my blogs. It just lends credibility to what you're saying, and people know it's a trusted source that they can rely on. So when that's appropriate, like this blog, um, person who wrote it could have talked to maybe a disability travel expert, someone that specializes in even a disability travel agency that specializes in just helping people with disabilities, just to
Mhm.
lend a little bit more, you know, authority to the blog. So that's something that I always recommend doing. It takes more time, but it's worth it, and it will help with SEO.
Okay,
I've been writing blogs and articles for people for a very long time, and I've always done it this way. I've always made it more like a journalistic piece of content than just like a blog that you throw up in 5 minutes. I always try to include that subject matter expert, relevant resources and data, and link back to where you found your data.
mhm.
Give people something that they can't just get anywhere. So
Okay,
that is very important for SEO.
okay,
People will engage with it. Google will see them engaging with it, and they'll be like, oh, this is a site worth watching. And then once you have one piece of content that does that, Google's crawlers kind of remember that, and they'll seek out new content on your site as well. So once you do it, you have to keep doing it. Make a
okay,
commitment to producing that
okay,
quality content.
okay.
And the other thing I'll just mention briefly with SEO is, yes, SEO keywords are important. However, where so many places go wrong, and where Google is starting to penalize now, is they shove keywords in everywhere in unnatural sentences. You'll read it and you'll be like, what did I just read? It might have had six different strings of long tail keywords in it, just because someone's trying to get the keywords in there.
Okay,
That's not a good practice. Yes, Google found your site because you put in a whole bunch of keywords, but the people that are reading your site aren't going to stick around. They're going to be like, what is this? This isn't written for me. And they're going to leave. So
okay,
ultimately, it might get people to your site, but they're not going to engage with it. And eventually Google will go, well, this isn't good content, and they'll downgrade the content. So natural use of keywords. There are tools out there. People ask me about this all the time. Um, there are SEO keyword tools that you can, plugins that you can put on websites. I mostly ignore them, um, because they follow very outdated rules. And
oh,
they'll say things like, there's one called phrase, in particular. It will tell you the number of keywords you need to use, specific keyword phrases, and how often and where you need to use them. People think it's great, but if you follow that advice, it's going to be pretty unreadable content.
But how else do you know the keywords? Like, how do you know what keywords to use?
Well, there are keyword tools, and I will show you one of those right now. This one is free. There are a ton of keyword tools out there that you can use. Some of them are free. The free ones are limited. Um, and then there are paid versions that you can use. Unless you're doing SEO for a living like me, you really don't need any of these paid tools because you don't need to know search volume and all the extras that you get with a paid subscription. It's not going to be valuable. You won't understand what it means, and there's no reason to deal with it. So one of the
Okay.
free tools that I like to use is called WordStream. Can you see it on the screen now?
Yeah.
So what you do, you go in here. If you have a competitor, a direct competitor, you can cut and paste their website in here and then say, find my keywords. And what this tool will do is it will see what keywords your competitors are using. And it will
Oh,
generate that list for you and say, here are the keywords your competitor is using. Here's the
interesting.
keywords they're ranking for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one of the things I like to do, let me find a good website here. Let's do the one we're going to go to here in a little.
Yeah, because I know who her competitor is. I'd be
Yeah.
interested to see.
So
I do know who her competitor is. He has a very similar name even to his
yes.
site.
So we'll put this in here. So what you do is this, if you're using a website, you put in the website and
Mhm.
you say, find my keywords, and it'll think for a few minutes. And it's going to ask me what industry.
Mhm.
See, we got to find travel industry. I
Beautiful.
think
Yeah,
this gives you a
travel,
whole
the last
bunch.
one, yeah.
Yep. This gives you a whole bunch of options. Sometimes you won't find one that exactly fits in your category. So you kind of have to choose the closest thing to
Okay,
it. Then it lets you choose the demographic. You can say all of the US, you can say a specific state, you can say right down to a specific city. It's
okay,
not so great with international. So it's a free tool. If you're looking for
yay.
international, you may have to have a paid for that.
Mhm.
And then you say, okay, we've set our parameters and it's gonna do a little search here for us. And then voila, it gives us all the keywords that are on her website and that
That
Google
is
is
so
finding.
cool.
This section here, search volume, tells you how many times it's searched for. This stuff with the range of bid, you don't need to know that. That's important for data marketers, but the average person doesn't care about that. What you might care about is under competition.
Mhm.
This will be ranked low, medium, and high. One strategy I
Um,
like to use is to look for keywords that have low competition because then they're going to be easier to rank for. So if you create a lot of content around travel for travelers or tourism or places to go, any of these things that are low, new travel blogs, new traveling, tourist destinations is a good one. You could do any combination with that phrase in it. Tourist destinations for wheelchair users would be an example of some way
mhm.
you could throw that in there. If you made that the title of your blog or a title of a page on a website, low competition, and then you would have mentioned it, a handful of times. But like I
Mhm.
said, there's no hard and fast rule. You need to use it
And you
10
never
times
know
in
what's
one.
gonna come up, really. You can't really
Right,
predict it, I guess.
right. So you just want to make sure that it sounds natural.
Mhm.
So focus on I that's a priority for me is to focus on the low competition keywords. That's a good strategy to start with. And then, as you start building authority, it doesn't look like there's anything really high um,
Mostly
high
low.
competition here.
Yeah.
So she's probably, I don't know how many services there are like hers out there. You might
It's a
have a
pretty
better
niche
idea.
market. I think well, there are a few, but it's not a big mass market,
Yeah.
so.
So that it depends a lot too. What I would advise for SEO depends on your industry. There are some
Mhm.
industries that are so saturated that no matter what you do, even if you choose a low, and you might have trouble finding a keyword with low competition, depending on the industry.
Mm.
So when that happens, then you have to do a completely different content strategy. It relies more on, you know, thought, thought leadership, doing a lot of pieces with subject matter experts that just add value I
Mhm.
always recommend looking at your closest competitors and seeing what they're doing. There's always a gap. See what they're not doing, and then you do it. That's how you, that's how
Yeah,
you get new eyeballs away from them. So,
right.
if you're in an industry where you do one of these keyword searches and you do not see anything that says low or medium, it says all high competition, then it's time to sit down with someone like me and talk about, okay, how else do we get eyeballs on our content then?
Right.
Always a
Interesting.
different
This
strategy.
seems like it could be kind of fun to go through. I could go down the rabbit hole with this kind of software. I think
Oh
I just
yeah,
spend
yeah.
all
And
day.
I like this one. There are a lot of tools. I like the one from WordStream because it's
Mhm.
truly, you can see they have a lot of free resources.
Mhm.
You can do Google Ads. You can all of this stuff is free website grader. It'll tell you what your website is compared to your competitors. So when you use that tool, you enter your website and then, maybe another
Is
competitor
A, B,
or
C, D, or F? Is
yes.
it?
And then you can tell
So
it
you
what
could fail,
industry.
and then you have to revamp your website. You
Yes.
could get an A and say I'm in really good shape, or a C. You don't know, but when you put it in, you know what you have to do.
Yes. And it gives you just enough specifics. Now, it's not super comprehensive. You have to pay if you want something more in depth, but for most people, it's enough to get you started with making
Mhm.
some improvements that'll help you start really better.
How
So,
disturbing if you put in your website and you get an F.
yeah, yeah,
Or a
yeah, it's
D.
happened. So I had a D usability feature rating on my own website, and it was because the platform that I was using didn't have the compression. Something happened with their compression tool and nothing was compressing. I didn't realize it because it loaded for me when I'm on the back end. So
Oh,
I wasn't
oh,
paying attention to that.
right,
And that's what it was. One of their plugins failed. And I happened to run an audit, which I do every once in a while, and I got a D
right.
rating. I
You
was like,
got a D.
oh no, that's not good. So,
Horrible, yeah.
yeah, I recommend this one is from WordStream,
This seems really
wordstream.com.
useful,
Yeah,
yeah.
that one's I recommend that one.
Okay,
There's a lot out there. That's one that I feel comfortable telling people to use. And then
okay.
here
And you would
here
talk me
is
through it, though. You would teach me how to use it.
yes, yes.
Okay. As we went on, because I wouldn't know
Oh
how,
yes,
well, I
Y-
wouldn't know what to start, but then just
yeah,
like I said, my thing is content, so this technical aspect is a little daunting, but it seems
yes,
kind of actually fun in a way to find out about your website
yeah.
and
And it
see
is
how.
important. It is important because I'll have people come to me. Like I said, they have very well written blogs. It's good stuff. And I'll do an audit on their website, and there'll be problems with like pictures loading. They'll be missing alt text. They'll be missing it's called a meta description. And it just basically tells Google's crawlers what a page or what a piece of content is about. If you're
Mhm.
missing any of that, I mean, it can affect how your content performs. It
Mhm.
all works together.
Okay,
So yeah, it's important to know there's a lot more to content creation than just writing a blog or writing a
right,
social media post. There's all kinds
right.
of stuff behind the scenes that, if you're
Mm-hmm.
not doing it, it will affect things. So this tool here, this is another free auditing tool. They do have a premium version. I've used it. It's really good. So, if you want to pay for one, this is one that I will recommend. It's a pretty good site. But to do a free one, let's do wheelchair. We'll do wheelchair traveling again, one that you write for.
Mm-hmm.
I'll show you what happens. The thing with this free version of this tool, it will only analyze the home page. It won't do any sub pages for you. So if
Okay,
that's important for you, then you will have to upgrade to the premium version. But
okay.
for most people, if you do an audit of the home page
Mm-hmm.
and it finds things, it gives you an idea of what to look for yourself on other pages to
Other
check.
pages, yeah.
So, it gives you a starting point. So, if you have just a basic website for your business, you probably don't have 30 or 40 pages like some of these big companies or nonprofits or whatever.
Okay.
You don't need to do it. So with this free tool, it's called SEO, it's SEO
Mm-hmm.
dot com. You enter the website that you want to audit, and then you say audit, and it is thinking about it for a minute. And as you can
I'm
see,
nervous.
it's checking it.
I'm nervous. I want to get a good grade. Yes.
Well, it's not done yet. I
Oh.
I get excited too.
It
It
says
doesn't
your
always
page is
rank.
good.
Yeah, it doesn't always rank my website great either. And then I'll be like, well, what did I do? It's very good
Wow.
at telling you what you didn't do. And some of the suggestions are not things that I really recommend doing. So that's something
Okay.
else that is helpful walking through it with someone.
Okay.
It's almost done here. It looks like pretty good. Very few recommendations so far.
Okay.
It's
Nothing
complete. Okay,
below,
so
nothing
this is
below
actually
average.
this is really good. The links, this is what I see a lot. Her on-page SEO is perfect. He's got an A in that. So the content on the page, the blogs that you're writing, the descriptions on her individual pages, they're all satisfying current SEO keywords.
Mhm.
And she's being found in search. So that's good. Here is this area with links. This is what I find where a lot of people are lacking. And that's the links, internal links to other places on your website
Mhm.
and external links to sources and also backlinks. It will measure whether you have any backlinks from other verified places. Um, I'm not sure how many backlinks she has to her site, but that would be my guess. That's really what's bringing that score down. It's usually what it
Oh
is.
my God, usability F?
Um, this is something I advise taking with a grain of salt. So we'll scroll down and look at that. Her performance is good, which means everything is loading. Okay. And social, she has links. This one I ignore a lot because not everybody has social media, nor do they
Mhm.
want to link it on their website if they do. All this is doing is seeing if you have social media accounts and if you've made them accessible on your website.
Okay.
So, like, are there little icons in your banner at the top that people can click
Yeah,
on
she
to
has
your
one.
Facebook, whatever? He has that, so that's why she's got the A+ there.
Mhm.
If you scroll down this, it'll start talking to you about recommendations. Um, here's where here's where it tells you some of the problems. Um, her usability. These are the things why she might have ranked that for usability. Um, she must have some pages that have duplicate H1 tags. Each page or each piece of content, if it's a blog, should only have one H1 tag. If you have any more than that, it confuses web crawlers. They don't know what the page is about or what the content is about. They don't know which one to prioritize. So this is something, if you click on any of these, it'll show you. You can say, this is what I like about this. It'll show you where the problem is,
Mhm.
specifically where the problem is. So you can go.
Wow,
Okay? So that's what I like about this.
that's cool.
Yeah. So that's let me go back up to the top. Um, it looks like her load speed's a little bit slow, but not enough to matter because she still had a good usability score. So these are things I would advise ignoring. All of this stuff that says low priority, they're nice to change, but they don't really impact SEO or ranking. Um, this one is saying that some of her backlinks aren't search engine readable, which
Mhm.
means that they're not keywords.
Mhm.
So one of the strategies that I recommend for backlinking, if you're linking within your own website, make it an SEO keyword. So if say you're writing a blog about uh, accessible shower chairs. I know she has some products on her website as well. So you could take that phrase, accessible shower chairs, and link it back to a product page on her website.
Oh, that's a good
Something.
idea.
So yeah, that's what this is recommending.
Okay.
Because then it tells Google's crawlers or Bing's or whatever search engine is crawling the website. Oh, this is what this content is about. Here's more information that goes with it, and it will index that too. And it just
Okay.
considers that more searchable.
Hmm.
So that's probably what's going on here. Same with when you use keywords, it also makes it more human searchable because those are the things that people are looking for. So
Mhm.
that's what I recommend. Now, I don't recommend if you're sending a link off of your site to an external site somewhere, I never recommend linking that to a keyword because
Oh,
that actually negatively impacts your SEO score. You only
oh.
want to do it if you're internal link. When you
So
link
for
to
example, she's gonna give the example of the hotel. She's gonna link to a hotel.
yes,
She
use their
should
name
not
for their
use
hotel. Yeah.
it,
She might
just put
say,
the,
leading right up to that, she might say wheelchair accessible bathrooms at, and then make the hotel the link. So she's
okay,
used the keyword, but she's linking an external link to not a keyword, but
okay,
it'll still work. So
okay.
I always recommend that. That's a little bit tricky to
Mm.
remember, but it is important. And I have a whole session on linking strategies. And that's one of the things that we talk about is, how to know whether to link internally, externally. How do you build links? How many links do you need in a blog? We talk about all
Okay.
that. That's
Yeah.
another good one if SEO is one of your focuses.
Okay.
Um, it looks like, see, it says she must have some images that don't have the alt text because it's low
Hmm.
priority here. But
Hmm.
all these things are low priority. Um, some of this stuff increase, increase text on the page. It might tell you you need to put more content on a page. That helps with search, but it's, as you can see, it's a low priority. It's not a top ranking thing. As long as she's using adequate keywords in a natural way and she's got enough description for what's on the page, it'll still find it. But it's always recommended to have a little bit more text. But as you can see, it says low priority. So let me click on that and see what page it's saying, which section it's. So see, as you can see, I clicked on that and it takes me down here to a further explanation. It says she only has 434 words on the page.
Hmm.
But it does say it's well researched. Her page
Okay.
research. So it likes that. So and this is why I
It's
say,
concise. It's
yeah, some of these
concise.
things are low priority because
Hmm.
she doesn't have a ton of text on the page, but what is there is well researched and it's informative, so it works. That's why I
Hmm.
gave it a low priority score.
Hmm.
If she wants to add more text, if there's more relevant, what I would say, if it's not relevant, don't add it just to fill some kind of magic limit for text. It's
Okay.
not a good strategy.
Okay.
So, as you can see, it goes down through all of this stuff. Let's go back up here. So really her page is in good shape. On page SEO is good. Um, this is what we were talking about earlier when I said no more than 65 characters for an
Hmm.
H1 header or a title,
Hmm.
because this is how it displays in Google. And if you make it too long, it just runs off the page and people won't see the full gist of it.
No, they
So
won't know what it says. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, sometimes you'll see these titles that they're cut off, and if you hover over them, it'll show the whole thing then.
Hmm.
But titles that are, I don't think they need to be that long. Clear and
Okay.
concise. That's what I
Right.
recommend
And
for
I think
people.
we need to add catchy to that because when people see a title, they want to see something that gets their
Yes,
attention, you know?
just be
Short,
careful
concise,
that,
and catchy.
yeah, just be careful that you don't cross over into clickbait territory.
Mm.
Um, Google has that's another thing Google has started penalizing for. If it finds what is a clickbaity title, it'll look at the
Mm.
title and scan the content. If the content has nothing to do with the title, it de-indexes.
Yeah, that's misleading to people.
Yes, yes, because they consider that deception. That's a black
Yeah,
hat
it is.
technique.
It is.
So definitely make it clever if you can, but
Mhm.
prioritize clarity and conciseness first. Those are more important than clever every time.
Okay. Right.
Sometimes copywriters joke. There's an old we analyze old sales copy. There's a piece that's perfect. It's literally, it says horse for sale, but it's effective. It's concise. It's to the point, and it's, if you're looking for a horse for sale, that's what you're looking for.
Right.
So, sometimes you don't have to be clever. You just
Okay.
you just have to be
Okay.
clear on what it is you're trying to sell or promote, and
Right.
concise, and
Right. And
just
honest. I think
and honest.
honesty is
Yes,
definitely, I'm getting that through the Google thing.
yes,
That's really
definitely.
important.
Yes,
And I
definitely.
think that's not a bad thing.
No, no, not at all. So, like, as you can see, it breaks all this stuff down. Anywhere it tells you there's a problem. Um,
Hmm.
Now it's saying that her keywords could be a little bit more consistent. So, these are the ones she's ranking for. She might want to, put some
What's
more content.
Chico?
It must be a place,
Oh, yeah.
be a place or a tool or
Yeah.
something.
Or a brand.
Chico, California. Here it is down here
Yeah.
again, Chico, Cal. So it
Oh,
was a
Chico,
place.
California. I was gonna say I only know the clothing store.
And sometimes you have to take these with a grain of salt too, because if you're just profiling a city in one blog, you're not going to have 40 instances of that keyword
Hmm.
everywhere else in your website. So
Yeah.
that's why it's helpful to go over sometimes these audit results with somebody that understands them and knows what you should prioritize. Because otherwise, you might look at this and go, "Oh my gosh, my website's a mess. What,
Right. And
no
then get
wonder
all
it's not doing
upset and
whatever." But
start
that's not the
changing
case.
everything.
Yeah, that's not the case. But there's a few technical things, like it'll talk about robots text and things that are blocked, site maps. If you're not a web developer, you're not going to have any idea what any of those things mean. But luckily for her, she's got green check marks in all those areas, so she's
Because
meeting
she
them.
works with I think she's very clever with this stuff and she works with a web developer too.
Yes, I mean, I recommend that. Can you do your website yourself? Yes, there are tons of do-it-yourself websites out there, but they don't perform well. And
Okay.
and when there's problems like this, the average person does not know how to fix them. So, and it will affect the usability of your website. So it's not a good idea. And if anybody needs, I know it can be sketchy finding a web designer that's reputable. There are a lot of bad apples out there, just like there are a lot of bad apples in the SEO industry. I
Mhm.
have a list of pre-vetted graphic designers and website designers that I work with regularly that I'm always happy to recommend clients, if
Yeah,
if they
that's
know they
like
need.
definitely want a referral and for something like this because they'll have your information and get into your site and so
Yes, yes, and,
almost
and
it's
when they're
trustworthy.
designing your website, they have access to your website, so you want to make sure they're a reputable
Right.
person. They can ruin, if not, ruin your brand reputation for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
So, like, as you can see, they're showing all the places where she's ranking, where she gets the most traffic from, which is also
Mm-hmm.
helpful. Obviously, she did a blog about this and it was very popular. So it
Mm-hmm.
gives you ideas on future content. If you're seeing something that ranked really well, oh, maybe I can do more content on that particular topic people are
Mm-hmm.
interested in.
That's
So an
interesting
audit.
to know because I wouldn't know behind the scenes what's going on. I think that's very why Arizona, I don't know, but whatever works, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, whatever. She would have to go back and look at this specific. It's a
mm-hmm.
link on somewhere on her homepage. So it's
Yeah.
either a product or a review that she's written something.
Mm-hmm.
What was it about that? And there's other things that she could capitalize on from that area and write about that she didn't cover in her first piece of content.
Okay.
So that's all, it's all helpful information. It'll tell you where she is. This position means where on the Google search pages. So she's at like position 78 for this search word. So if she writes some more content with this search word, it might boost her up onto page one of
Mm-hmm.
search. But
Mm-hmm.
again, I also caution people, don't obsess over being on page one of Google, because right now, if you go to page one of Google, it's mostly full of paid ads that people have paid to boost themselves.
Oh, yeah, because that
They're-
became such a thing because no one wanted to go on to the second page, so everybody
Right.
started paying to be on the first page, and now that has lack of validity because they're paying.
Yes, people, I don't know. I mean, everybody does it. Data supports the fact that people do not trust paid ads. They'll scroll right past them. So now, if people have to go to page 5 to find organic content that's ranking over a paid ad, that's what they do. So,
Yeah.
don't obsess over whether you're the first top spot on Google, whether even on page one on Google, because it's not as important as people think it is.
Okay, because I
So,
think everyone does tend to think, oh, page
do.
two, we're done.
And I've written blogs for clients. Like one of my clients he's in a specific industry with livestock. So it's low competition to begin with, but his website wasn't being found at all. And I did some blogging for him, very specific blogs on topics that people that are raising those kind of livestock would care about.
Hmm.
And if you search for any of the keywords now, all of my blogs come up. Several of them rank first. I don't get excited about that because I know he doesn't have much competition. They're low competition keywords, but they're well written blogs. So I think even, if he starts to get competition, they'll still perform well. But Google is fickle. Just because you're
Yeah.
not ranking in first place does not mean that you don't have good content. Um,
Okay.
I like to tell people, don't just rely on Google. You have to have a solid distribution plan too. How
Okay.
are you going to push out your content? You can't just blog and hope people will find you. You have to put it out there. That's
Okay.
where social media is really helpful too.
Okay.
Really
Yeah.
helpful with social media. But anyway, so going down through this, I mean, it shows her monthly volume of traffic. That's a lot of
Not
traffic.
bad.
That's
Not
really
bad.
good. That's
That's
really good.
really good. I'm sorry, but I mean,
Yes, that's
she's gonna get
beautiful.
to 6 digits next year, I think.
Yes, I would be thrilled if I saw that and that was my goal.
Yeah.
That's really good. And it shows her down here. This is an even further breakdown. It shows her how many keywords she's in position one for. So that means she's top ranking for 3 keywords. Um, So she's not doing bad.
Yeah.
I really think that she's doing well. Whatever she's doing, she needs to keep doing it, honestly.
Hmm.
Um, and then down here, this is why she got that F rating for usability. It's all about backlinks and referring
Okay.
domains.
Okay.
So, and this is where a lot of people struggle. There are just some industries. I'm working with someone now in an industry where getting backlinks from outside reputable sources is nearly impossible because it's just such a niche industry
Hmm.
that there aren't places that you can really partner with to do that, to guest blog and to have them backlink to your site. So
Okay.
I don't panic about this as much as some people do. And as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of SEO professionals that will argue to the death on this, that backlinks, 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 you have to have them.
Hmm.
But you know, it for some industries, it's not possible to do it the way
Okay.
that Google would like you to do it. So,
Okay.
I mean, she has her domain strength is really good. This is a
Hmm.
good anything over 50 is
Oh, great.
well. She has authority with Google, or they wouldn't be giving her that kind of strength rating.
Mhm.
It's the page strength, and it's as you can see, it's all due to backlinks.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so
Um,
maybe if she just did a little focused on that, like if she took a lesson with you, maybe you guys could do something to get her out of the red in that, and maybe not great, but like into yellow, and that might be worth it for her. I
Yeah.
mean,
And one of the things that I always recommend is, you partner with people that it's mutually beneficial. Do a lot of guest blogging. That's an easy way to get backlinks, is to do
mm-hmm,
some guest blogging.
mm-hmm,
And make sure they're relevant websites. Um,
mm-hmm.
and you always want these do follow backlinks. Do
Okay,
follow backlinks. eh, Google looks at them, but they don't consider them as important as a do follow backlink, which basically means if somebody clicks on it, they're going to go to your website. They're not
right.
going to be somewhere on the page.
She's a
Uh,
lone wolf, Ashley. She's
yeah,
not sharing.
yeah,
Maybe it's competition. I don't know. I'd have to.
yeah. I don't know, but I mean, there are things that there are places she could partner with. Like you see, they break the backlinks down by government, educational,
Mhm,
subnets. Subnets are
mhm.
people within her same industry that she's
Okay.
partnering with in some way. Um, she could partner with travel agencies or colleges or even travel and tourism programs at schools that focus
Yeah.
on this and do
I'm
guest
thinking of
blog.
Abilities Expo. I'm thinking about all these things that are in not competition, but insane things, what
Yes,
she's doing, but in offer different services where she's a site, they're an expo. Maybe she could even doing interviews with people. If she would bring
yes,
on some people from the industry and interview them, and maybe they could interview her.
yes. And what happens is, this is another reason to use subject matter experts. If you feature a subject matter expert in one of your blog posts and then you push it out on your social media and tag them, they're going to share a link back to your blog or whatever content. That's what I call natural link building. And that's another
Right.
reason to rely a lot on subject matter experts.
Okay.
You can't go wrong when you talk to, because if it's been a good interview and it's good promotion, it's good PR for them, of course they're going to share it too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, that those are natural ways to build backlinks.
Okay.
And people will obsess over high authority websites for their backlinks. And yes, it does make a difference. Like if Forbes gives you a backlink, of course, that's going to be more beneficial than, if
Some
another health
local,
food store or something
yeah,
gives you a backlink. But it's not, it's really hard to get those kind of high authority backlinks. So I tell people, don't obsess about that. Just build organic earned backlinks,
right.
earned backlinks to sites that are relevant to your industry, to your content that you're writing. That's the way to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, because most people are not going to get backlinks. It's just, or
Right.
Business Insider, or Entrepreneur Magazine. They're all great places. They all have high authority with Google,
Mhm.
but most people are not getting backlinks to those sites. So
Right.
you just make yourself crazy trying to figure out how to do that. It's
The
not
average small business is not
right.
gonna be, okay,
Right. You can
until
do just
something
as well
major.
by making sure the backlinks are relevant, and mutual. So yeah,
Okay.
that's one thing that we talk about. So, there are different ways to look at this and figure out a strategy. For her, I would say maybe partnering with some more educational places, government places. Since ADA accessibility is the law here in the United States, there may
Mhm.
be government agencies, nonprofits that she can partner with to do some guest blogging, get some backlinks that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to break that down. And then you can see here, it shows where her top backlinks are. This is another thing I like about doing a website audit. It will show you. And surprisingly, Pinterest has a very high authority ranking for backlinks.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know what it is about Pinterest. It's same with search results. I tell people, if they do a social media planning with me, if you're not on Pinterest, get on Pinterest. It's not just about, planning for your wedding or whatever. There are actual brands on there, and their ads, even if you do a paid ad on there, the return
Okay.
on investment is crazy.
Well,
It's
I
just,
noticed that when I Google something, if I say I'm going to wear red, I want to wear red boots with what kind of outfit, it'll come up. Pinterest will be like the
oh
first one
yeah,
that comes up to give me samples, not
yeah.
an article
Oh,
in Vogue magazine, but Pinterest.
yes. And if you know how to use SEO keywords on Pinterest, and as Pinterest now caters to that. They have, before you used to have to make them hashtags.
Mhm.
Now, when you're uploading a pin, they have a whole section that is for hashtags. It'll say, I think it says keywords or something like that. I can't
Mhm.
remember the term that they use,
Okay.
but that's where you put in your SEO keywords
Yes.
and
Okay. Good.
it'll find them. So yeah, Pinterest, it's another good, if you can find a way to make that work for your brand, I highly recommend it. And then backlink to Pinterest, to your content on Pinterest, to your blogs and your pages. Good
Oh, wow.
strategy.
Oh,
You can
interesting. Yeah,
see,
right.
yeah, you can see that's her
Yeah.
number one back referring
Wow.
links.
I never would
Um,
have thought really
yeah,
that I don't think about Pinterest.
yeah, most
But it's
people
always
don't.
coming up. It keeps coming up when I put in
Yes.
things that I'm looking for.
Another one is Reddit.
Hmm.
Google likes that user. Reddit satisfies user intent. You ask a question and somebody has answered it, and usually it's somebody with expertise in the subject, which is even
Yeah,
better. Um,
or it's just someone with the same issue as the person who asked the question who's been through it. I mean, it's not necessarily like a journalist or a PR specialist, but someone who knows something about that, who's been you user to regular people having a conversation. It seems
yes.
like and I find it helpful.
So I recommend that too. If you have a platform, a subreddit on Reddit, and you link back to it, Reddit has crazy mad website domain authority too. That's a great strategy for backlinking.
Okay.
So that's another thing that I recommend. We just started a subdomain for our group. I think I shared it with you. Where small business owners, entrepreneurs, startups, they can come and ask questions about their content and just to support each other. Um,
Hmm.
and that's a great opportunity. Any business can do that, especially if you're in a niche industry. You are an authority then in your
Hmm.
industry if there's very few people that are doing what you're doing. So it makes
Exactly.
even more sense to have like a subreddit group. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's another one to keep in the back of your mind. And these are
Okay.
things that I go into more detail in if we have like a social media session. That's all we focus on because there's a
Okay.
lot of information there to go through.
I see French in there. Caroule en bref de février, number 97. Well, the first 97.
Oh yeah,
Go
yeah,
up one above the Toronto
yeah.
thing. I just wonder why that's in French. Well,
Well, it's
uh,
it's, it's a website probably somewhere there that links to it. And
hmm,
if I clicked on this, it would probably take us to it. It's back linking to
okay,
one of her blogs, it looks like.
great.
So yeah, this tells you where has backlink to her, and this tells you what they backlink to. So yeah, it's really helpful. But that it's just what I suspected looking at her score up top. It's all backlink driven, which,
Okay.
like I said, don't necessarily panic about that. Sometimes you just can't build backlinks the way that Google wants you to rank well in that category. And it doesn't mean that your website's not coming up. I know
Okay.
when I was searching for um, accessible travel and wheelchair traveling and all kinds of those key terms to find a blog that we could go through today in our example. a lot of her stuff comes up. So she's
Okay.
ranking. So
Okay.
take all of this with a grain of salt. If you're not sure that your site's coming up, go on to Google. I also recommend don't just use Google. Go on to Bing every once in a while too, because they give you different, Bing ranks differently than Google. I actually prefer using Bing. I find I
Hmm.
get more relevant search results.
Okay.
Put your keywords in and see where you come up.
Mhm.
Ask questions. Don't be afraid to pretend you are an ideal customer looking for your
Mhm.
services or your information. What would
Mhm.
they be searching for?
Right.
It's not going to be the same things you're thinking.
Okay.
So, if we go down through this, it gives you a lot of specifics. Um, so here we're back to the friendly links again. And that, as I mentioned earlier, it's one of those things, just making the links keywords, I think would fix that problem.
Okay. So
Make,
these,
make,
she has fixable issues. They can
oh yeah.
be.
And
Okay.
all of this stuff, here's another thing under her usability, why she ranked so low. She may want to check, and some of this you have no control over, because some of it is where you're hosting your website. The
WordPress.
website's server, yeah, if they don't, well, she's probably not on WordPress. Like
I
a
think
site
she,
is like Bluehost, there's different, WordPress is the
maybe
platform,
she,
and you
okay.
have to be on a server. Servers are different, and a server can be having a huge problem, and it's affecting how your site loads, and you have zero control over that, other than to reach out to your server and say, hey, I'm paying for this service and you're
Right.
not loading well, can you fix something?
Right.
But that looks like that's what's happening here.
Right.
It's her server. And the other thing that I'm seeing is that her mobile performance is not, it's not loading as well on mobile devices as it could. And I think maybe that's what happened to you yesterday when you said you
Mhm.
were trying to access it from your phone.
Yeah.
So she may want to ask her website developer about that.
Mhm.
It's possible that a plugin isn't working, something. But
Okay.
that's usually a back end website problem when that happens.
Okay. So let the web developer deal with that.
Yes,
Like
let
she
the web,
can't,
but
she's not
that's
heavy
what
with
the
it.
problem is. Backlinks, that's why she got an F in that category.
Okay.
Backlinks and this device rendering on mobile. So
Okay.
these are things. So this tool, and you can this is pretty comprehensive for a free tool. That's why I like this one. It's accurate. If you do their premium trial, you can do every one of your pages. But as I said before, um, this this gives you enough idea of what to look for. Once you know what problems might be on one page, they're likely on every page. So you probably
Okay.
have more than H1 header, you probably don't have all alt text on all your photos. Once you
Mhm.
do one page, you have an idea of what to look for manually on another.
Is it about $20 a month, you said, I think, or something?
Um, their premium. They have several versions. Their top
Okay.
premium version, it gives you more data than any person who isn't an SEO data analyst needs. I
Mhm.
think was like $60 a month. But the
Oh,
next step up from free was 20, and that does all the pages. So
okay.
you can put your sub pages in here, and it'll do the same thing. And once you do it, you don't need to keep it. Do your website audit, cancel your service.
Yeah.
People like me who do SEO audits all the time will tend to keep it because we use it.
Okay.
So, but those are the two free tools that I recommend using
Okay.
for that. And I know we went over a lot of stuff there. So, do you have any questions?
No, we went over a lot. I just think it's really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of components to SEO that most people don't realize. They think it's all about keywords and
Not so
writing
simple.
content in a certain way, and there's so much more to it than that. So it really pays. If you plan to have content writing as part of your marketing strategy, it really pays to make sure that you're looking at all those aspects.
Okay.
All right, and so that's that segment, and we're going to move on now to the final part of our lesson, which is to look at a piece of content you've written and fix it up according to all the things that we just learned.
Okay.
Uh, so the final part of our lesson, we're going to do a hands-on writing exercise, just to walk you through all the things that we just learned in the last three sections. You had mentioned that you wanted to go over your a recent travel blog that you had written, and that's what I have on the screen right now. Are you able to see that?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, so tell me a little bit about this blog. What was the purpose of the blog?
So I live in Lyon, France, and it was Ashley and I decided to do for me to write about how Lyon, how accessible or inaccessible it is, because there's been a lot of improvements in the last 10 years. And there's pros and cons. So for her blog, it's perfect because she wants to hit every city around the world. So if somebody's going to France, is Lyon and they're in a wheelchair, is it an option? So I don't promote Leon. I don't criticize Leon. I just do some research and I say how accessible it is, or what is accessible, what is not accessible, what's easy, what's hard, where to stay, what activities you can do, how you're going to get around from the airport to the train in a wheelchair. So I did my own photos and went around the city and looked at the museums and the activities that someone who is in a wheelchair, if they wanted to come to Lyon, what is feasible and what isn't
Okay. Okay. So
in
you're
terms
looking
of
at all aspects
accessibility.
like hotels, restaurants, popular attractions, tourist attractions. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So let's take a look at this. Um, One of the first things that I would recommend, this is clear, but it doesn't tell me that it's specifically for people that are in a wheelchair. And that is the whole focus, right?
Right, but the site already is wheelchairtraveling.com, so she doesn't always, I mean, if she puts I don't know if accessible is necessary, because if you're on the site, but it might be, maybe like Leon France Travel Guide and Access, maybe would be cool if you put an
Well,
access.
the reason I say the title needs to be, we're going to go back to clarity here,
Mm-hmm.
and relevance, because Google might find this blog
Mm-hmm.
specifically, but not crawl the main website. So it may not necessarily associate this blog with her main website. So it's not going to be assumed that it's accessible. So if Google
Okay.
brings up this blog for someone and
Mm-hmm.
all they see is this title, they're not going to think that that's for them if they're in a
Ah,
wheelchair.
okay. So
So
this,
that's why,
okay,
yeah,
so
I would
we have to
recommend,
be wheelchair accessible Leon France or
uh,
some.
or Leon France wheelchair accessible travel guide.
Mhm. Okay, so
That
that
hits one of her
one.
keywords because that was one of her top ranking keywords was wheelchair accessible. So
Mhm.
that's something that since she's already ranking well for it, she wants to continue to build on that. So that would be
Yeah,
a really simple way to make that a little bit more clear, more relevant, and more engaging. People can be like, "Oh, that's
okay,
me. I'm in a wheelchair. I might want to visit this place, and so this is going to give me information."
okay.
So that's one example right off the top.
Good.
Um, the photo is this a flash? Was that changing photos or is that a still photo?
She put them so that they should be moving at all
They rotate.
times.
Yeah, I thought it was flashing when I first looked up, but I wasn't sure if it
Yeah,
was. There we go.
yeah, there we go.
This, depending on the software that she's using, I would recommend, this is one of the things you would want to audit to make
Mhm.
sure that a screen reader can access this, whatever this
Okay.
is. It should give ideally a description for each of those images that is scrolling through. But again, she needs to check to make sure that that happened on the back end.
Mhm.
So a website audit would help with that. So yes, one thing that you did really well is a nice like overview at the beginning of what's appealing about Leon. Why would somebody want to go there?
Mhm.
So I really liked that introduction. I think
Oh,
it was good.
sorry,
Um,
the dog's just gonna jump down. Hold on one second. Hello. Okay, sorry about that.
so
Yeah.
so one of the things we could talk about is like here's an example of a link.
Mhm.
Um, you might want to actually link this to the word Leon instead, even though you're describing what it's called. Leon is a search word that people are going to be searching for. not
Mhm.
necessarily this. So
Okay.
that's an example of making those links, as the audit was talking about on that we did of her homepage, making them more user people friendly and search engine friendly. So you might want to move that link to Leon instead of this,
Okay.
because it's in the same sentence, so people are going to
Mhm.
know. Or you could even link it to 9 districts, but that would be a second choice, preferably Leon, because that's something people would probably be.
And maybe say, just say that arrondissements are in France, what
Mhm.
people refer to as districts. You might
Yeah,
just,
yeah. I mean, you can leave it like you can leave the sentence alone, just change the link to Leon, and that would
okay,
be enough to make it, more searchable, I guess
okay.
is a way to put it. Um, and then you talk about, we broke these down. So this is good. I like that you broke it down into sections. That's what we were talking about. The
Mhm.
only thing I would recommend is maybe making these a little bit more searchable. So here you come back to some of your keywords. Um, you could make this something like Leon. Let me read the sentence. Is it, in your opinion, it was accessible? It is.
Yeah, and there is pretty quite accessible, depending, not every neighborhood, but most of the neighborhoods are accessible.
So you could say some way to change that. Um, Leon wheelchair accessibility report or rating, something like
Mhm.
that.
Okay,
So then you get a keyword in there, it's specific to that section, and you're giving them a rating. Or you could say grade A rating or something like that to give them, give it a little bit more interest, a little
yeah,
more.
they say like overall, how do I wanna,
Yeah,
before I read the whole article, is this an option for me to go there, if I'm in a wheelchair?
yeah. Because one of the strategies I like with blogging particularly, it is making H2 headers a search term.
Mhm.
And that's something that I could see somebody sitting down at a computer and saying, is Leon wheelchair accessible? What's the wheelchair accessibility rating for Leon?
Okay.
And this blog would come up simply because that's a header.
Oh,
So,
okay,
it's
that's good.
gonna find it for that. So that's why I'll recommend breaking it down with keyword type titles. Um, Again, down here, just adding wheelchair accessible attraction, shopping and dining, or Leon wheelchair accessible. You might want to stick with that phrase for this blog since it's specific to Leon. Like use
Yeah,
that as naturally as possible. You don't want to do it in every header because then you can overdo it and it'll feel spammy, but just as appropriate. Um,
okay.
and so and again, you have these with the links. Again, I would recommend this is a good link here. This is
Mhm.
a good way to do it. She's
That goes
linking
right
to
to
the
the tourist
tourist
office,
office.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good example of of a backlink that would be clear to Google. It would be clear to people looking at it where it's going to go before they click.
Okay,
Down here, uh,
like what you were saying before, maybe not be
I would
appropriate,
maybe
maybe
link.
Rue de Republique.
Yes, yeah,
That's the big street,
yeah.
with all the
I
shopping.
would make that a link to something. Maybe it goes to their tourist area. Maybe if they have if they have a like a merchants council or something for that particular street or whatever, link it to
Okay,
something that's specifically relevant.
yes,
That's a big thing with links. Make sure they're relevant.
because I
Um,
don't see why the first and second arrondissements, I mean, well, then I guess if you want to see like what you were saying with Rue de Republique, it would go to the first arrondissement, it would go to the second arrondissement, the council there, but
yes,
I think
yeah, and
that's might be more.
if you link this to a good resource, they'll be able to
Mhm.
find that information while they're on that resource.
Right,
And
because it's
and
very,
Google is measuring that. That's what I'm talking about with engagement. When somebody clicks off that link and goes to another site,
mhm.
Google is still measuring how long are they engaging with that link that you provided them. And that affects your SEO rating too, even though they've left your page. If you've given them a valuable resource, Google likes that. So
Okay,
they'll be like, "Oh, we like this website. They give good backlinks." so,
right, right,
yeah, it's important. Um,
okay.
so that would be again, that's another suggestion. Um, is this an ad or is this a visual?
Yeah, that's an ad.
Okay, it's an ad. Um, Yeah, I'm not a fan of ads in the middle
I'm
of
not a
content,
fan
but
of
that's a
ads at
whole
all. I
different,
find it very
yeah,
distracting.
that's a whole different thing. People that don't want to see them will use ad blockers, so I don't, that usually doesn't affect your,
Okay.
um, here's an example of, this is a great link. This is a great way to do a linking strategy because you're linking to a specific place, and I'm assuming that's going to go to a relevant resource for that,
Yep,
learning more about that. So
yep.
that was perfect. Um, you might want to do that down here too with
Mhm.
Old Leon.
Right, keep it consistent too.
Keep it consistent. Anything that's, and make sure that it's a link that will show some of these other things that you mentioned. So,
Okay.
tourism, chambers of commerce, like whatever they call them there, here would be a chamber of commerce, any place that talks about more specifics. So somebody clicks on there, they can find all the goodies that are in
Okay,
Old Leon.
okay.
That makes it relevant. And say, see, this is a link here, so that's a good thing too.
Mhm.
Um, down here is I would, this is a good thing, but I would reduce this link only to visitors with wheelchairs. So unlink easiest way for, and just make it visitors with wheelchairs,
Mhm.
or
That's concise what we're talking about.
Leon visitors with wheelchairs. Be a little bit more specific if that fits into
Mhm.
there. Um, but that makes it more of a relevant backlink. With links, I try not to link more than 4 words max, because then it just looks spammy. It'll look like a
Okay,
spammy link to Google. So that's,
okay.
so I would, that visitors with wheelchairs, that's, I could see a keyword. I could see somebody searching for Basilica visitors with wheelchairs, or
Mm,
visitors to Basilica with wheelchairs, and this would come up because it's in the same sentence. So
mhm.
people don't realize that with SEO keywords, they think they have to be right up against each other, and that's not the case. As long as they're in the same sentence and they flow naturally, Google will find them. So
Okay,
somebody was searching Basilica visitors with wheelchairs. This would come up because that's in that sentence.
okay.
So that's like a recommendation. Again, down here you've linked, that's good. All these things, linking all these things is good because you're linking them to specific places where people can get more information. Same with this. So this is really good. I don't have a lot of recommendations for that. One thing I would suggest for this is maybe a way to get some H3 headers in here would be to break these down further, make an H3 heading that's just Leon attractions, Leon shopping, Leon
Mm,
dining, or
mm,
accessible. You could do it differently. You could say accessible attractions, accessible shopping,
okay.
accessible dining.
Because there's
So
enough information there for different,
yes, because there's a lot of text here.
lot of
So
text, yeah.
yeah, that would be something I would recommend, is to break it down with the H3 headers. And you're talking about 3 different things in this section, so you could further break it down that way.
Okay.
So that's one way to do that. That makes it more scannable. It increases the readability. It'll increase engagement too, because as people are trying to scan quickly, they'll find what they need and engage as appropriate. So that's one way that I would recommend, just kind of altering that section a little bit to
Mhm.
make it more SEO friendly, make it more user friendly.
Okay.
Um, the parks, uh, again, you could say wheelchair accessible parks in Leon, or you could leave the Leon out at that point. Um, you could say, you mentioned the Rhone in here.
Mhm.
Um, you could pull out something else that's, because we don't want to overdo, that's one thing, you don't want to overdo Leon too much.
Mhm.
Maybe 2 to 3 times, given the number of headers that you have. Any more than that, um, then it kind of seems spammy. But you could say, you can make this like wheelchair accessible parks. Go back
Okay.
and look at what some of her top keywords are when you do one of those page audits, and
Mhm.
work some of those in as
Okay,
appropriate.
okay.
So, but otherwise, this is good. This section, it's small enough that you don't need any further breakdown. It's got a good link in it. The only thing I'm seeing here that she might want to do differently is do some more links on her own site. So are there other blogs that talk about places in France?
Yep.
Um, are there other, could she link to any of these accommodations? Is there any extras that like might be equipment or tools or clothing and fashion that people might want.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, that's a good idea. But maybe the shoes when you're going
yeah, or
traveling.
do you want to rent a scooter? Like, can you rent a
Hmm.
scooter?
Okay.
Find internal links on her website too, because that
Okay.
increases engagement. If somebody finds more value, and then they're more likely to go, oh, what else is on her website that I might like, and they'll start exploring. So
Wow. Yeah.
that's a good strategy, is to have some internal links somewhere in here. I haven't seen any yet, unless I've missed them, but that would
Hmm.
be that would be important.
Okay.
Um, I would even change this, um, wheelchair accessible public transportation,
Okay.
because it looks like, are you talking all about public in here?
Yeah, there's no, we didn't bring up taxis or Ubers. It was mainly the buses, the trams, the metros,
Yeah.
the
So
airport,
yeah, make that clear that it's public, because
public transportation. Yeah.
transportation can
We
be
don't get into taxis or Ubers in this
right.
heading. Yeah.
but again, it's clarity and conciseness. So we're
Right.
talking, and relevance.
Right.
They're going to know it's public transportation,
Right. That's more
not
interesting to
taxis
people.
or
People want to take free transportation when they're traveling.
yes. So you could even say that
Mhm.
free accessible public transportation.
Yeah.
Be
Because
very,
sometimes I do write
that's
about taxi, special taxi companies, but this time I didn't, so it might be, may
yeah,
make it more specific.
yes, that's very specific. It's clear on what you're talking about. It's very concise. It's to the point. People will know what they're going to find when they read this paragraph.
Okay.
So things like that. Um, and this is a good one. This is a good place to, again, say, where to stay in Leon, accessible places to stay in Leon, something like that.
Hmm.
Just to, again,
Okay.
add some keywords in there, make it a little bit more concise and clear. And then, are these links? They're not links.
No,
Um,
no.
one thing you might want to do, you have a little bit of a intro here, you could expand this introduction a little bit more. Instead of making these bullet points, make them H3 headers, and
Okay.
just give a little bit of information about each one. So like, write a sentence or two about each one. That would be, a way to break it up a little bit more.
Okay.
And then
And would you
you
recommend
could
linking
links.
to the
Yes.
hotels? Okay.
Yes. And similar to what that other site did, which was really good. If you can find a specific listing for one of their accommodated rooms,
Mhm,
um,
mhm.
make that the link,
And then
specifically.
contact the hotel, ask for a photograph. I mean, that makes all the difference, I
Yeah.
think.
Yes. Yes. So, and yeah, I mean, you could do that with each one of these. You could have a little photo,
Mm-hmm.
of the hotel, the H3
Like the
header.
roll-in
Yeah.
shower,
And
that
then a
kind of thing.
description, and then just, 2 to 3 sentences about each one is probably enough. So that I would recommend that. But I
Okay.
mean, the content is there. It's just a little bit of formatting is all it needs to boost
Hmm.
SEO. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah. And then
Now, in terms of the content, though,
mhm.
what I mean is, would you make any edits? It kind of ended abruptly. I felt like it just
Yeah,
ended
you
on
should
the
always have
hotel.
a conclusion.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
like that it doesn't have a conclusion. I think what I should have taken out something from the first paragraph and put it at the end.
yeah, well, either that or just, a conclusion. The whole point of a conclusion in any kind of writing is just to summarize what everybody has just read in the piece, or if they didn't read the whole thing, what they've missed.
Mhm.
It'll give them another overview. It's just another
Okay.
chance to say, just wrap it all up. It's just another
That
chance to
is the
wrap.
number one gastronomy in Europe. It's quite accessible. Violion is the greatest part. That's harder, less accessible. There's free transportation and there's a lot of shopping and it's beautiful and less touristy than a lot of France.
And give like, don't call it conclusion. I see that
Yeah,
all
no,
the time.
no.
But give it a catchy H2 header or something like, um,
Mm-hmm.
plan your next trip to accessible Lyon, France,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and then just kind of wrap it all up again. And then maybe, if
Okay.
there's a resource that you want to highlight again, like a travel agency or a tourism bureau there that people can get more information from,
Okay.
don't be afraid to add one more link in there, or say that can be a call to action, or,
Okay.
adding a call to action in there too, something about, have you visited Lyon, France? Tell us about your experience.
And
That's
then
another way to get
everyone may,
to encourage engagement. I like to do that on
mhm.
my blogs when it's appropriate, just to get
Yeah,
people to talk.
yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'll develop, start a dialogue about France,
Yeah, the
about.
call to action doesn't
Yeah.
always have to be about you getting more business. It can be about
Mhm.
just getting that engagement going, because then again, you're thinking in the back of your mind about SEO and is Google going to like my blogs? More people are engaging on it. So
Okay, that was really helpful. Thanks, Sherry.
let me stop sharing. So that is, that's everything that we decided we were going to go over for your
Great,
lesson
that's
today.
so
Do you have any
helpful.
other questions?
I have so much to think about right now.
Yeah,
I just have
it's a
so much
lot.
information. It's a lot. I really feel like writing is now a whole production.
Oh, yeah, it's more than just throwing some words on a page.
But not everybody has the, like what you have, what I think is very unique about you is you have the writing, but you also have the tech.
Yeah.
And that together I know I do the writing, or who does the tech? I don't do the tech.
Mhm.
Not most people's brains work in either way. So it's good about working. What I like about working with you is you've got the writing and the content. You say, oh, this could have had a summary, but also, you've got to increase engagement by putting this word in the very technical part of it because there's both sides to it and it's just not so simple. So that's why I like working with you.
Yeah. And if you're gonna, I tell everybody, if you're going to invest time and money into a content marketing plan, these are the things that you need to look at everything. There's a lot of moving parts. And if you're missing one or neglecting one, it will affect performance. And then you'll think, oh my, it's not working. Well, there's
Mhm.
always a reason it's not working. And
And
these
it can
kinds of
be
things help you get,
fixed.
get to that.
Yeah, and also with edit, I think with general content, also another thing you could really help me with is editing. Because I tend to go on and on and on. And I've noticed that thing you've really been concise, clear. That's so important, but it's not so simple.
A good tool for that, while we're talking about free tools, and kind of
Mhm.
wrap it up with that, is
Yeah.
I know everybody uses Grammarly, and it's okay. It's good at keeping things short. But another one that I like is Hemingway, the Hemingway app. It will let you write to a specific grade level of reader, and it is really good about telling you this is a run-on sentence. You need to fix this. This
Mhm.
sentence is hard to understand. Maybe you've used industry jargon or like big
Mhm.
terms in it. It will highlight and tell you exactly what is wrong. Like it doesn't tell you how to fix it. You have to figure that
Right,
out. But
right.
that's
But
part
you
of
get
learning to be a
the
better writer.
problem.
But it will tell you this is like an 11th grade reading level, and you should be targeting fifth grade or sixth grade reading level for the
Um,
average person. And it will
interesting.
show you all the problems. It's one app that I really like, so I recommend that often if
There's an
if you
app
have
for
blogs.
everything. There's
Yeah,
an app for.
there is some of them are better than others though, so
Yeah.
choose
Oh, wow.
wisely. So
And that was also very interesting about that software. I just think I could spend hours just looking at websites and figuring it out. That seems really interesting and cool, but not the simplest tools,
no.
but it took away a lot of the scariness of it. When you said do an audit, I would have been like, no, but we went through it. So it's really, and you see why, because of the bank links, that's why your usability. So yeah, it just starts to be logical at a certain point.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
thank you.
Well, thank you for doing this with me today. I
Oh,
hope
yeah,
you found it helpful.
yeah,
And if
definitely.
you have any other questions, you know where to find me.
I do. Okay. And I'll hold you to that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
Bye.